Hello friends! So I know it's been a little while. I took a little bit of a break in October and now I'm back. I think in my last video I had mentioned I was going to New York and unfortunately we didn't get the chance to. We ended up getting sick and all this other stuff, but that does not mean I did not buy some books. So I went a little crazy and got a ton of books. I'm going to be talking about some books I've read over the last month and enjoying a cup of tea. So I hope you guys are super ready and excited for this video. I'm excited to share all of my books with you guys and see what your thoughts are. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I thought maybe I would start with some of the books I've actually read and give you my reviews and thoughts on them. So I've read 3 of them this month and I started a 4th one and kind of a 5th one. I DNF'd 2 of them and then read 3 of them. And I'll explain why I DNF'd 2 of them. So the first book I read and finished was The Bakeshop at Pumpkin and Spice by Donna, Kauffman, Kate Angell, and Allyson Charles. This book was very interesting. It's not a book I would keep. It's not a book I would reread again. It was cute, it was folly, but it was not what I was expecting. The back says witches, goblins, the occasional ghost. They are all sure to be spotted at the annual Halloween parade where adults and children alike dress in costumes to celebrate Moonbright's favorite holiday, being Halloween. And so when I read the back of this book, I didn't know anything about it in the first place before I read the book. I thought it was actually going to have witches and goblins and ghosts, and it didn't. And so I was kind of bummed. It ended up being 3 short romance books, which I do read romance, but I think I have to be in the mood for romance maybe to get into the spirit of it. And this was just like a Hallmark movie vomited all over this book. All 3 storylines connect to this one bake shop that makes cookies that kind of get people to fall in love. And I think that's cute. I love baking, of course. I mean, it's one of the main things I do. And so I just was like, this book is for me. But it ended up not being for me. First of all, in all 3 of these stories, at least 2 of them, they talk about their appearance and their weight, like being a little fluffy or overweight is a bad thing and not sexy. And I just hate that idea. I just think it's really overdone, and I'm sorry, fluffy is beautiful. And I think talking about being fluffy and also being in a bake shop and going to a bake shop as being a bad thing is just really annoying. It's not even they're talking about the bake shop as a bad thing, they're talking about their weight as a bad thing, and then they go to a bake shop and eat baked goods. And I'm sorry, but like, I love going to the bakery and eating a buttery croissant, and it's not for everybody. But if you're talking about weight and also talking about a bake shop, it doesn't go together in my head. And then we have the classic man who's mysterious and tall and rugged, and it's like your classic movie. And I love a Hallmark movie. I go crazy for the Hallmark movies during Christmas. We binge watch them, we find them funny and enjoyable, but it just wasn't what I wanted in a book, and 3 stories back to back was a bit much for me. Maybe if I split them up, and so I was reading them like reading one story and then a different book and then reading another story and then a different book, it would have been better. There were a couple scenes in here that were just so cringy. I just couldn't handle it. And as I said, I am a baker and I love recipes, and this book has recipes in it and I'm excited to try the recipes, but there's one scene where the baker brings, I'm sorry, this might be a spoiler, maybe. I'm sure you would have figured it out. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can skip to this little mark so you're not spoiled during the part, but it's not really a spoiler, I think. But during one scene, the baker is like holding out a muffin and the man eats the muffin out of her hand. Like, what? Like, I don't get this. So I didn't like that scene, and this was in the first story. and there's this, the last scene. So the last scene, they're about to, do the dirty. And she like says, "Oh, I'm home." And I'm just like, ugh. That was so bleh. And I had to read that part out loud to my partner because I was just like, this is so just not entertaining. So, all in all, I actually think the third story was the best one out of all three of these. The first one was the one I disliked the most. The second one was okay. The third one was better. But I wouldn't reread this book. I'm not going to recommend this book. I'm actually sending it to my sister because I think she'll find it funny. But I wouldn't read it just in my personal case. If you like a little Hallmark romance, maybe you would love it. But not my book. And but the again, I'm not hating on it, it's just not my book. So, I also started reading The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Marina Enriquez. I stopped reading this one, DNF'd it, not because I didn't like it, but because I think some of the stories in it was affecting kind of my anxiety levels, and I decided for my mental health I would not continue reading this one. I think the stories are really well written, but one of them is centered around anxiety, and it wasn't helping me. It caused me to actually feel uncomfortable, so I've stopped reading this one. I do think that some of the stories are really good. I'm going to have my partner read it and tell me more about it because I'm interested. It's just for my health and my mental health, I can't continue reading this one. Again, not because I didn't like it, but just because it's just not for me at this moment. So if you like it, let me know what your thoughts are. But yeah, this one I can't continue reading. And I also read Agatha Christie, The Body in the Library. I find this interesting because this is my first Agatha Christie book. I, of course, know a little bit about Agatha Christie, but I was completely I thought it was so funny. I started reading it and I was like, this reminds me of Clue. And my partner says, yeah, Clue's kind of based off of Agatha Christie. And I was like, oh, well, this makes sense. The story of this book is cute. Well, not cute, sorry, wrong word. The story in this book is interesting. I was engaged the whole way. This book will go onto my I don't get rid of. I put on my bookshelf and we will read again at some point, but it also wasn't my favorite book. I think it was interesting. I didn't know who the murderer was. I could kind of guess, but I couldn't figure it out. I was engaged, but I would consider this a cozy fall read. This is not one of those mysteries where you're like sitting in the corner and anticipating something crazy to happen. It's more of like, whodunit, Clue. So, really good book. I liked it. I would recommend it if you just want a cozy little book to read on a Saturday, Sunday when it's rainy. This one's quite interesting. And I didn't figure out who the murderer was until the very last couple pages. So, definitely worth a read if you need a cozy book. I also just finished Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. This was a very interesting read. My partner read it and I decided to read it right after him so that way we could have a big talk about it, and we ended up going on a little date and talking about it for 2 hours. Our thoughts, our kind of feelings about it, and I thought it was really interesting how different our opinions were. So I enjoyed this book. I would keep this book. I would put it on the bookshelf, reread it again. But there were parts of it that I was just kind of not maybe fully understanding, and I wasn't sure if that was because maybe I just didn't get that part of the story, or maybe I misread something, but there were just a few parts of the story that I just wasn't connecting well with. And after talking to my partner about it, I think it's because I'm a female. Not a bad thing, but this book is written for young boys, and I think it's really interesting. I think it's a great, spooky, young adult story, very atomical feel, and as you're reading it, the imagery is just so, I wouldn't say even imagery, I would just say the feeling, the atmosphere that Ray Bradbury is able to kind of create in this book is just amazing. Like within the first few pages, like you can feel the cold air of autumn and they'll hear the sounds of the crunching leaves, and you know the kind of atmosphere he's describing, and it's such just like I needed to like cozy up under my blanket and read it, and I was just so caught up in the story and the imagery that I loved that part of the book. But I wasn't able to connect with any of the characters. However, my partner was, and I thought that was really interesting. He's able to connect with more of the idea of growing older and how he felt as a young boy to how Jim and Will felt, and then how the dad felt, Charles, and how he felt by getting older, and that different depiction of age. And the theme is really, really well kind of thought about and talked about, and the theme and the atmosphere just fantastic. I loved both those things in this book. I may have not been able to connect with some of it. Some of the imagery is just a little fuzzy for me, and the ending was not like knock it out of this park wonderful for me, but a good book, very interesting. Yeah. Also, we were out on our vacation, so we decided to go for a hike in the Black Forest, and we stopped at this adorable little honey stand so we can go inside and we can go buy honey. And I ended up buying first this basket, which is really, really cute, and then it has 3 different types of honey in it, and I was really excited to try this, and I wanted to show it to you guys because I thought it was adorable. And there's bees on it. It's so cute. So we did a little hiking in the Black Forest. I'll go ahead and share some clips because it was just absolutely gorgeous. It was so nice, and the temperature dropped, so it was cold outside and chilly, and there was just leaves everywhere. It was beautiful, and it was just exactly what I needed to have a little vacation and a little time off. It's so important to just take time for yourself and just really enjoy the days that are coming around. Especially for me, I love the fall season and I love the cozy, comfy season. So it's so great to actually get out in the woods and just smell the earth and just play in the leaves and have a good time. I don't think I do it enough, and I'm sure it's hard to fit in the time for you as well, but just stepping outside for a little bit of a walk to enjoy that fresh air and the fresh breeze is so, so important. But with all that said, I really do love the fact that you guys joined me for my video today, and I hope you guys enjoyed all of the books I talked about today. It was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to share some more with you. Let me know if you guys like this type of video. I would be happy to go into more in depth about some of the books as well and tell you my opinions more. But for now, I think that's everything, and I'm gonna let you guys go. So until next time, I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys soon. Ciao!